Hi, it's me, the storyteller. Thank you for joining me. Most of my stories on this channel are based on actual events, and some aren't. I'll let you decide if this story is fiction, or if it's not. It's been almost exactly 10 years since one of the strangest disappearances in Adirondack history, the vanishing of 82-year-old hunter, Tom Messick. On November 15th, 2015, Messick and 6 other men set out for a routine deer hunt near Lily Pond, just west of Brant Lake, New York. They were experienced outdoorsmen, veterans of both the woods and of life itself. But before that day was over, one of them would be gone without a trace. What makes this case so haunting isn't just the mystery, it's the silence that followed. 7 men drove deep into the woods near Lily Pond, just west of Brant Lake. They were all experienced hunters, men who'd spent their lives in these forests. Among them was Tom Messick, 82 years old, a retired Air Force paratrooper who'd been hunting since he was a boy. Tom wasn't the type to take chances. He'd lost sight in one eye and some hearing in one ear, but he knew his limits. He knew these woods better than most. His son, Dennis, was with him that day, part of a group that had hunted together for decades. The plan was routine, a drive hunt. Half the men would walk a wide arc through the timber, pushing deer toward the others who waited along a ridge. Tom's position was simple. He'd been dropped off near the edge of an old logging road to sit and wait. He had his rifle, his radio, a small metal bucket he used as a seat. He wore his blaze orange vest, bright enough to see through the trees from half a mile away. By 10 o'clock that morning, the men had spread out and the hunt was underway. By noon, Tom Messick was gone. When the group finished their first pass through the woods and began regrouping, they expected to see Tom near the road where he'd been posted, but his spot was empty. His son called his name. Nothing. They looked for boot prints, broken branches, anything disturbed. There was none of it. His radio was silent. His seat was missing. His rifle was gone. At first, they thought maybe he'd walked toward the sound of the movement or tried to get a better view. But the terrain was thick, the ridgeline steep. Tom wasn't one to wander, especially not with bad knees and failing eyesight. By early afternoon, worry had turned to alarm. By sunset, it was fear. When you've hunted together as long as they had, you know what makes sense and what doesn't. And this didn't. Authorities were called that evening. The Warren County Sheriff's Office and New York State DEC responded quickly, setting up a search command post near Lily Pond Road. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging were brought in. Search dogs were deployed. Dozens of trained personnel worked through the night. In the following days, the effort grew into one of the largest missing person searches the Adirondacks had ever seen. More than 300 volunteers and professionals scoured nearly 50 square miles of wilderness. They searched ravines and ridgelines, old logging trails and beaver ponds. They found nothing. No footprints, no blood, no drag marks, no torn fabric from his blaze orange. A veteran searcher said later, "In 30 years, I've never seen a case give us so little. And still, every single day ended the same way, cold, quiet, and empty-handed." The search itself became a kind of living organism, growing, shifting, and adapting with each passing day. By the second morning, the trailhead off Lily Pond Road looked less like a remote hunting pull-off and more like a forward operating camp. Trucks lined the shoulder, portable generators hummed. Folding tables were covered with maps, marked in red grease pencil, grids showing areas cleared, areas still to be searched, and those too rugged to risk sending volunteers into. Searchers were divided into small teams: rangers, deputies, local hunters, and volunteer firefighters. Each carried radios, GPS units, compasses, and fluorescent ribbons to mark their paths. It was standard protocol, slow, methodical, overlapping sweeps designed to cover every inch of ground. They started closest to the last known position and worked outward, a spiral of orange vests moving through brush and deadfall. The rhythm was deliberate. One man calls, the next repeats, ensuring no voice is lost to the woods. But the forest in that part of the southern Adirondacks has a way of swallowing sound. Radios crackled with half sentences. Static bled over transmissions. Voices that should have carried 100 yards sometimes vanished entirely. Helicopters circled overhead during daylight hours, their rotors thumping low and heavy through the trees. From above, the canopy looked like a wrinkled green ocean, dense, uneven, and unforgiving. Thermal imaging cameras scanned for heat signatures, but the results came back blank. By midweek, even the most seasoned rescuers began to show it. That quiet fatigue you only see when professionalism gives way to disbelief. They had followed every rule, every pattern. They knew how to find a lost person. But this wasn't that. One ranger described it later. It was like we were searching for a ghost. We had the coordinates. We had his photo. But it felt like he wasn't in this world anymore. People who were there say the woods felt different that week. The sound just stopped. Even the birds seemed to disappear. Some of the search dogs, normally eager and steady, began behaving strangely. They'd freeze mid-step or refuse to move deeper into the woods. One handler said it was as if they'd hit an invisible wall. At night, when the searchers returned to camp, that quiet followed them. They'd sit by their trucks, staring into the trees, unwilling to say it out loud, but all thinking the same thing. How can a man just vanish? And then came the whispers. Small at first, spreading quietly through nearby towns and hunting circles. Some locals wondered if Tom had even been there at all. It sounded ridiculous at first, almost disrespectful. But it came from a place of confusion. How could so many people search so thoroughly for so long and find absolutely nothing? If someone truly disappears, shouldn't something remain? A shell casing, a boot print, a torn glove? It led to one uncomfortable question. Could a mistake have been made early on? Could Tom have stayed closer to the trucks or never reached his assigned spot at all? Those who knew him best, his son, his friends, shut that idea down quickly. They'd seen him take his post. He'd checked in over the radio just before the drive began. He was there. But when logic fails, people reach for whatever's left. And for some, that meant wondering if the story had started from the wrong place entirely. One of the hunters later spoke about something strange he'd heard that morning. It wasn't an animal. It wasn't gunfire. He described it as a single, metallic snap, like a massive trap closing somewhere deep in the trees. It echoed once, then vanished into silence. No one else heard it. No explanation was ever found. There were no traps in the area, no equipment, no metal debris. Just that one sound, sharp, unnatural, and final. When weeks passed with no discovery, interest in the case spread. One researcher, known for studying clusters of wilderness disappearances across North America, quietly added Messick's name to his list. The details fit a pattern. Experienced outdoorsmen, often older, vanishing without trace, sometimes within sight of their group, often under strange conditions. In many of these cases, there were shared details, unusual silences, electrical interference, sudden changes in weather, or mechanical sounds no one could explain. Nothing could be proven, but it was enough to make some wonder if what happened in those woods wasn't unique. As the official search wound down, the story started moving beyond Brant Lake, picked up by regional papers and true crime circles online. For a while, the headlines were simple: elderly hunter missing in Adirondacks. But as the days turned to weeks, the tone began to shift. Locals near Warrensburg and Chestertown started sharing older stories, quiet disappearances that never made front pages but lived on in campfire talk. There was the trapper who vanished near Faro Lake in the 1960s, whose canoe was later found overturned in shallow water with his gear still inside. There was the hiker from the 1980s who walked off a marked trail in the Siamese Ponds wilderness and was never seen again. And further north, near Whitehall, a series of strange sightings from the 1970s that blurred the line between folklore and police reports. None of them were proven connected, but people noticed patterns: solitude, silence, sudden vanishings in clear daylight. Hunters who'd spent decades navigating these mountains began saying they wouldn't go near Lily Pond anymore. Not because they believed in monsters or portals or anything out of a movie, but because something about the place felt wrong now. One local put it simply: when the woods stop talking, that's when you leave. Dennis Messick didn't want speculation. He wanted answers. "My father didn't just wander off," he said. "If something happened, I would have heard it." Locals near Brant Lake still talk about it. Some say they don't hunt that area anymore. Others say the woods feel heavier now. There are no warning signs, no closed trails, but the story travels on its own. Among men who've hunted their entire lives, it's become a quiet rule: don't go near Lily Pond alone. One of Tom's longtime friends summed it up best when asked what he believed happened. He looked at the ground and said, "The mountain took him." Even years later, the silence surrounding the case feels heavier than the facts themselves. People who were part of that original search say they still think about it when the wind dies down, when the forest feels too still. One volunteer, now retired, said there were moments during the search when the quiet was so complete that you could hear your own heartbeat in your ears. Another said he started humming just to make noise because the stillness felt like pressure. A few have their theories. Some say Tom fell into an old, unmapped well or sinkhole concealed by leaves and brush, though no such hazards were ever found. Others talk about the sound the hunters heard that morning, the metallic snap that never fit any natural explanation. And then there are those who lean towards something less tangible, that certain places hold on to what enters them, the way the mountains seem to remember. When all is said and done, this case comes down to one thing: absence. No gear, no tracks, no evidence of a struggle. An experienced hunter vanished within earshot of 6 others on a clear morning, and there's been no trace of him since. Some say the forest hides what it takes. Others think there was something mechanical in that sound: a door closing, a machine, something human-made. And a few still whisper the strangest theory of all: that Tom Messick was never there. Over the years, people have argued about what happened near Lily Pond Road. Some blame the terrain, others an accident no one witnessed. And a few still wonder if the answer lies in that single metallic sound, the one that didn't belong. What's certain is this: no trace of Tom Messick has ever been found. Hundreds looked and found nothing. And until something surfaces, the woods will keep their secret. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to the channel. Give it a like, a comment, and maybe a share. But if you didn't like the story, maybe share it with someone you don't like. In any case, I'm glad you stuck around to the end.